All right. Hello. Hello. Um, Tough day for me. If you're watching this recorded, uh, I got laid off today along with a bunch of other people at my office. About a third of our company got let go. We weren't expecting anything like that. Not in a great mood. Gonna try to get lost in drawing and talking with anybody that pops into the chat room, and we'll take it from there. Wow, all right. Lobo, Jesus, Ghost Dog, Charles. Hello, everybody. Nice to have all of you filtering in here. I've been working on a sketch. I've had extra time to draw today because a bunch of us got laid off at the office today. I am unemployed now. Thank you for the sympathy. I'll be okay. But it is frustrating. I just got lost doing a sketch. Now I'm going to work on filling in some detail and inking it, and just take it from there, see where things go. You know what? I'm not going to use this one right now. Hello, Anja. Hello, Kiro. Nice to see so many familiar faces. Hope everybody's doing all right. So today's today's prompt was cloud. And I am a really big fan of the video game Final Fantasy VII. So, the main character of that is named Cloud. And I said to myself, I know what I'm going to draw. Yeah, and I haven't really done anything video game related thus far, so I thought that that could be an interesting change of pace for something to draw. I also have been wanting to sort of draw two characters together, sort of form a type of interaction. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking today. And we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Oh, Chrissy says there's more time for YouTube. TARDIS Rider is here. Dean Schaefer's here. Yeah. I hope the company is giving severance packages. Not really. I get 2 weeks plus my saved up time off, which really isn't all that much. So that wasn't fun. At my office, or my job, I should say, we employ about a third of our team was what's called contractors. They worked with us full time, but instead of being employees, they were technically working for us through a temp agency. But that's really just how they got paid. They were fully a part of our team. Apparently last night they got texts that they were being laid off. That's it, just a text saying like, "Oh, you won't be needed tomorrow" or something. I can't imagine what that would be like. Like at least they told me in person and stuff, which wasn't fun, but still like, wow. Can you imagine like working at a place for over a year and then like somebody just sending you a text like, "Oh, don't bother coming in." So I don't think they handled it very well personally. None of us expected this. We had no idea that the company was even thinking about making cuts. So that was fun. I'm being sarcastic. Jesse Marsh asks, who are you drawing? Today's prompt was Cloud, so I'm drawing Cloud from Final Fantasy VII and Sephiroth. At least my take on those characters. So yeah, that's what I got going on here. See how it comes out. Hopefully, well. Um, I'm dealing with some extreme perspective, and I'm gonna really lay in some heavy blacks and just go for it. Sigamigs joins, and he also extends some sympathy. Thank you. Kira says many people in Puerto Rico are unemployed because of Hurricane Maria. Businesses were destroyed, and they can't open because of the electricity issue. Jesus, I know that is awful. Part of my job was trying to help our employees that were in or work in Puerto Rico. I worked at a company that had branches all over the country, and yeah, it was really hard getting stuff to Puerto Rico. Guess it's not my problem anymore to solve. But I hope things get better for you, Kiro. Um, Definitely thinking of our fellow citizens there in Puerto Rico, fellow Americans. Geek Workshop says, I became a Patreon. Hope that helps. It can't hurt. I'm very grateful for that. I saw that. Thank you. Very kind of you. Could I give some more thought to what I can be doing on my Patreon account to sort of make it worth people's while? So I had a poll out recently to have them have my patrons express what they're interested in. I'd like it if I could provide a little more exclusive content. Well, I guess for a little while at least, I'll probably have some extra time, so quite possible. Quite possible that I will be creating some extra content soon. Chrissy, you have a friend that named their son Sephiroth? Oh my goodness. That is wild. Wow, that is quite bold to name a kid after this. They're bigger fans than me, I guess. I, but Sephiroth had a great theme song. Like the music in that game was really fantastic. Sephiroth. Anybody else here ever play Final Fantasy VII? Really good game. Really good. All right. Let's see. Jesse Marsh says that he's drawing Nightcrawler. That's awesome. Nightcrawler's a really great design. That's a fantastic character. Dave Cockrum designed him, and originally was ready to pitch it to DC as one of the I think Legion of Superheroes. But anyway, it was a drawing he'd come up with, and DC was like, "Nah, we don't need that one." So Dave's like, "All right, hey Marvel, you want to use this guy?" They're like, "Yes." Good design is a good design. Isn't that funny though? In a way, like if you're familiar with Nightcrawler, to think of that same visual look. What if it was with a completely different personality and team and everything else, but it looked the same? That's sort of weird to think. There's some parallel Earth where Nightcrawler is a member of something like the Legion of Superheroes. No, he's not German. Sigamig says, played any of the recent Final Fantasy games? No, actually, I really haven't. Once it became more of an online series, I just sort of I haven't kept up. It's yeah, I just haven't really had the time to play role playing games in a while. I enjoy them, but it's a time commitment, and until recently, I really didn't have that time to devote to a video game, or just one video game, maybe I should say. Wow, TARDIS Rider says Dave Cockrum himself told me the Nightcrawler origin story one time. That sounds cool. So you get some time to talk to him, huh? Is that at a particular comic convention, maybe? Do any of you out there have a favorite comic convention that you've either been to or you like to go to every year, one or the other? Um, you all know that I go to the New York Comic Con every year. Or maybe you don't all know that, but I've mentioned it before, both on the live stream and episodes. But I think my all-time favorite comic convention is SPX, which is the Small Press Expo held in Baltimore, Maryland. I think early October every year. It's been a while since I've been able to go to it since I moved across the country, but that was always my favorite every year. The passion on display is amazing, and I would pretty much always find something really cool. Um, and you get to meet some interesting people. I talked to Frank Miller, Paul Pope, Brian Lee O'Malley, Craig Thompson. And because it's a smaller, more intimate venue, you can really have a conversation. And it's not like you're not really monopolizing somebody's time. It's a completely different setup. It's really cool. Sigmig says he's only been to one, the Alamo City Comic Con. Charles says he lives in Baltimore, so you probably go to the Baltimore Comic Con every year, right? That's a good one. Sigmigs says, no wait, Geek Workshop says, Sigmigs, I went to that same Comic Con. What year was it? Sigmig says this year. TARDIS Rider says he met Dave Cockrum at a very small Comic Con in the early to mid 80s. That sounds nice. Comic Cons have really changed in the last like 20 or so years. Because I went to some when I was just a young teenager in Boston, and they were just so much more modest compared to what it is today. I mean, you had the same stuff. You had panels, signings, costumes, exhibitors, publishers. You had all that, but it was a little quieter, and there was so much less cosplay. I mean, people always had costumes, and there's always like a few that were really, really impressive. But it makes sense. I mean, there was no social media or anything, so there was no sharing it. So people didn't like know if other people were necessarily showing up in their costumes or anything. A few people did it so that they could go to the ball or the costume ball or a contest or something. So people did it. It was just not as big a thing because also it wasn't really getting shared as much. You just sort of you might pose for somebody's photo, but it was certainly never going to appear anywhere you'd see it. So anyway, there was just a lot less cosplay back in the day compared to how much there is now at conventions. It's one of the biggest differences. Also, we didn't have cars. We only rode horses. All right, let's see. Few people chatting with each other. Lobo says, what do you think of DC's Kingdom Come? At the time, it blew me away. Both the future storylines and Alex Ross's art. I even bought the audio adaptation and listened to it while reading the trade paperback. Yeah, I agree. At the time, I was really, really impressed. Some of the designs for like the futuristic costumes hold up, but it doesn't capture my interest quite the same way it did when it first came out. Alex Ross's art is certainly impressive, but I'm not a massive fan, and I get a little like sort of burnt out on it, so it doesn't mean as much to me there. Uh, it's not really a critique or anything. It's just that it's not to my taste. There's nothing I dislike about it exactly. One of my local friends here actually knew him growing up. They were buddies when they were teenagers, but they're not in touch anymore. Hey, comic book guy. Kiro says, I hope to one day meet Walter Simonson. Loved his Thor run. Kiro, keep watching the comic tropes. I've got an episode coming up that I think you'll like. I am also a big, big fan of Walt Simonson. And I don't remember exactly what year this was, but at the Baltimore Comic Con, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I got to meet Walt and his wife, Wheezy, and big fan of both of them. They've both created some really fantastic stuff over the years, so it was a real pleasure to get a moment or two with them. Big fan. In retrospect, I really maybe shouldn't have blacked out all this area towards the beginning because it's at the bottom, and I'm now like worried about like sort of smudging or something. I've got to be like really careful now. Comic book guy asks, do they still print Heavy Metal magazine? Yeah, they definitely do. In fact, just a couple years ago, my good friend Mark Englert was lucky enough to be hired to color the last Jack Kirby pages that had never been published before. It was work that Jack had done for the movie, I was going to call it Argo, but it was known back then as Lords of Light. So that was pretty cool, and Heavy Metal magazine published those. So yeah, they're still around. I don't know if they're still around in France though, where the original company was. I don't know. Ghost Dog retypes. What are your thoughts on the two failed attempts at a Hulk film? Dissatisfied, he's been sidelined in the newer movies too. He's a complex character. He is a complex character, and yeah, I think that there's a lot of great stories that could be told with him, but if the audience isn't exactly there, then the audience isn't there. I didn't love the Ang Lee movie, but I did quite like the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. I thought that I rewatched it recently and I was like, this holds up pretty well. I think it's pretty good. So it's too bad. It's too bad. It's hamstrung by a bunch of business. Universal owns the distribution rights to a standalone Hulk movie. So while Marvel Studios can do whatever they want with the Hulk, if they gave him his own movie, Universal Studios distributes it. And that's where you make a lot of the money in distribution. Or you can. Disney doesn't really want to go that route. And Universal isn't playing ball. So it's very unlikely to happen. My understanding is in this upcoming Thor movie through the next Avengers movie, they're going to give him sort of an extended storyline. Hulk and Bruce Banner. They're going to use those movies to sort of tell an ongoing story where they explore the character a bit more. We'll see. Be nice. I think the Hulk works better as a TV show. It would just need a huge budget. Yeah, it would. If it was like a short, like sort of mini-series type of TV show, I think that you're right that could like probably work pretty well. But who knows? Um, hmm. I really enjoy some of the graphic audio superhero recordings. Do you like them? I've never heard them. That's news to me. Huh. Um, Chrissy says I could put a piece of clear acetate over the black part. Do I want one? Yeah, I guess it couldn't hurt. I'll take a piece of blank acetate to sort of protect myself from smudging. Sure. Thank you. Argo, like the Ben Affleck movie, Sigamix says. Yeah, Argo is based on a real story of where they legit put together a fake Canadian movie which hired all sorts of actual real people to sort of have its cover. The CIA put together a movie production as an excuse to film in the Middle East and rescue some hostages. And among them, Jack Kirby was hired to create character design and storyboards, and it's based off of a sci-fi book called Lords of Light. And there was even thought given into potentially turning it into a theme park, a Lords of Light theme park. So yeah, really interesting comic book history there. Yeah, it's really cool to read up on. Read up on like just Wikipedia or something like that. Let's see, comic book guys talking about. Oh, okay. People are having a conversation. Blah blah blah. Jesse March says, "What do you think of Greg Land?" I think it was just last night someone asked me, like, an artist that maybe I didn't like, and I actually listed Greg Land. I'm not a huge fan. I don't mind the realistic sort of photo referenced technique. That's not the part that bothers me. It's just that like I look at his characters and they sort of they all look like porn stars, and he like uses the same drawings, like he reuses them a bunch. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his work. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no, I don't think it is. That's really helpful. Thank you. There, now you can still sort of see the drawing while I work without botching it. Thank you. Look at that. The Bill Bixby series is already great too. Ah, yeah. Kiro says, "Do you like RPG games like D&D or Pathfinder?" You know what? I only, for the first time, played Dungeons and Dragons about like 2 years ago. For the first time ever, some local friends put together a game and invited me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm curious." And I really like it. So I've never played Pathfinder, but I do play the current version of D&D, and I like it. I like it a lot. It's really cool. I wish I'd sort of given it a shot when I was back in high school or something. Uh, but I didn't back then, so it's pretty new to me. Pretty new. How about yourself? Is that something you enjoy? Let's see what else. Jesse says he doesn't like him tracing stuff. If he didn't, then I would like him. You know, I don't know. Tracing in and of itself, here's where I think it's okay when you have certain reference and you can really add your own style and make it your own. I'm okay with it. My stuff's very sort of realistic and referenced, so I'd be a big hypocrite if I said that I didn't like that. I just don't care for his particular result, or maybe his approach. There are other artists that use reference, and it's much less obtrusive. There's still energy to things. There's still a lot of originality. Um, yeah. So let me take a look in just a second. What else is being asked? Um, Geek Workshop says, "What do you think of the Punisher TV show being released on the same day as the Justice League movie?" I think it's about the only thing that'll make the Justice League movie look like it's not too dour is the fact that a Punisher TV show is being released at the same time. No, it's fine. One's something you watch at home, and one's out at the movies. I mean, if Marvel's trying to counter program in that regard, I don't think it'll really affect the box office in any way personally. Whether it does well or not, I don't think you can blame that on the Punisher. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think that the movie will make money. Justice League, it doesn't look that great to me. I'll probably still see it out of curiosity because I love these characters, but kind of looks like a pretty by the numbers affair. Whenever I see the previews, I'm just like, okay, a bunch of digital action. I don't see anything that original about it. So I'm kind of burned out on that. Comic Book Guy says, "I'm getting Grape Ape and Hong Kong Phooey comics. I don't know, it's kind of cool." Yeah, it is. Grape Ape. Uh, TARDIS Rider says that he sent an email to my Gmail earlier, not sure if that was the best place. Yeah, it probably was, but I'm not sure if I've got it yet. Did you just send it? Did you just send it? English is my first language. I'll have to go through my emails. I've got a lot here to go through. Wow. Wow, I really have a lot to go through. Is your name Roger? If it is, then I think I got your email. Take a look. Do you think they should have given each DC hero their own movie first? Asks Sigmix. Probably. Maybe not every single one, but I think that yeah, I think if they were a little patient and they really got some creators to help define these characters, that would really help. Now, I think a lot of the public knows Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Flash. I don't think everybody necessarily knows Aquaman other than sort of as a joke. I don't think most people in the mainstream audience really know who Cyborg is. So I think that they could have each benefited from having their movie come out before Justice League. Well, I'm not an executive, so I would have thought that it would help to establish those characters before you put them in all together in a superhero movie. I think that was something Marvel did that really helped. They keep giving movies to a Doctor Strange or an Ant-Man before they throw them in like all together. You don't get like Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and Drax in Avengers 3. You know, you don't just get them and you've never seen them before. They're building them up for people that don't understand who these characters are, getting us to care about them. It's the difference between sort of long-term planning and rushing things. DC doesn't know how to make good movies. Well, I don't know. I mean, personally, I thought all three of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies were quite good. I think that the recent Wonder Woman movie was actually quite good. I'm not going to say that any of these are perfect, but I think that they're very good. I think that those four movies could compete with just about anything Marvel has put out. Uh, so I think they're capable. I think that overall they're very gun shy. You know, they're very hesitant to try things. So a bunch of people have joined since I started, and just an FYI, I got laid off today with about a third of my department. Just budget cuts that we had no idea the higher ups were thinking about. So today's a pretty crummy day for me. Not in a great mood. But I'm just trying to lose myself in this, trying to stay productive, trying to stay social, and hope for the best. Lovo says, true story. A few years ago, I browsed Walking Dead in my comic shop for the first time and was shocked it was in black and white. I must have been the last person to know. Yeah, it's incredibly successful for being a black and white comic, but fortunately, most people don't seem to have any kind of an issue with that. I'm glad, because I like black and white comics. I like it quite a bit. I got introduced to comics at a time when there was stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Usagi Yojimbo, The Tick, all these like really cool independent comics. Cerebus was huge at the time. I never really got into that one, but there were like a bunch of really popular black and white comics, and I like that Walking Dead is coming out and is in such stark black and white. I love it. Oh, TARDIS Rider's taking off. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Appreciate the sympathy. CSNG says, I wish Cyborg's design were more simple for Justice League. He looks like a Michael Bay Transformer made of crystals. I don't love his design either. I don't think it's the worst, but it could have been a lot stronger. But a friend of mine got to design the Cyborg action figure that's out in stores. I'm trying to remember the name of like DC's line of action figures. It's got the red box, kind of bulky. It's not coming to me. But he got to design those, so that was kind of cool. I'm sorry about that, comic book guy. Yeah. That's rough. You've probably got it harder than me. So there's plenty of people that have it harder than me. I'm trying to stay positive. Bad day though. Didn't expect this. Thank you, Aku. Nice to see you. The CGI in DC movies looks crappy. Not sure what the special effects studio is, but they need to hire some new guys or something. That's from the Ghost Dog. Yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. I'll try to cut him some slack because maybe it's just the trailer for Justice League was like they had to rush things out and it's not finished. I don't know. I thought that the special effects in Wonder Woman were pretty good. No more dodgy than any other superhero movie I would say. So, but then again, like I look at like Batman versus Superman, and to me, like those effects were just kind of average at best. There was some really weird stuff going on there. So you could be right. You could be being kind of cheap on that. And it's Warner Brothers, so they don't need to be cheap. They never went cheap on Harry Potter. Just don't go cheap on us, guys. Respect the audience. CSNG says, I'm excited to see them all fighting together. Aquaman looks to be a fun character. Yeah, I agree. There's some spectacle to it all, and giving Aquaman sort of a sense of humor is probably very smart. So it might not be like all bad, but I'm overall not stoked for it. Like I'm really excited to go see Thor. I'm really excited personally. Even if it's not like one of their deepest movies, it at least looks like it'll be fun and funny. So so I'm excited for that movie. I'm not really excited for Justice League, but that's me personally. Maybe some people are. Maybe somebody out there is a massive Cyborg fan or a Wonder Woman fan, and to them this is like exactly what they'd always hoped for. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. I usually like the stuff that Joss Whedon does. I mean, whatever he is as a person, like I've usually liked what he's come up with as a writer and a director, and I'm sure he added quite a bit to this movie. Not the most inspired hiring decision though, like getting the guy that did Avengers to do Justice League. But I think that Joss knows the characters a lot better than Zack Snyder does. So I got a little bit of hope there. Will Darkseid make an appearance in the Justice League movie? I wouldn't be surprised if he made an appearance at the end, some sort of like last minute cameo. Ghost Dog asks what I'm drawing. Yeah, it's Cloud from Final Fantasy. Today's prompt was Cloud, so I'm drawing Cloud. Comic book guy says that he's reading back issues of Uncanny X-Force. Are you reading the Rick Remender run? Because that's one of my all-time favorite superhero runs. Like, I just think that he knocked it out of the park 100% on that whole run. Oh, I love it. Dark Angel Saga is it's great. Great superhero comics. It actually had something to say, and the characters legit learned something and changed by the end of the run compared to how it started. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force personally. It's always tricky when you're drawing like really light hair because you want to have some definition and shading, but you can't go too dark in too many areas. You have to leave it all overall pretty open. Let me see what I can do here. Ah! Gotta bring it closer to me. I just messed up a line. But it should be okay. I wanted some real motion to Sephiroth's hair as though he sort of just spun or something. It's okay. Comic book guy says he is reading the Dark Angel saga. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've read it all the way through, um, but Rick's story for Uncanny X-Force is like a team of X-Men assembles, and they have a mission. They have a reason for existing as a team. They're going to proactively hunt down the threats that have existed. They're like, we're not going to wait for Apocalypse to attack. We're not going to wait for Mr. Sinister to attack. We're going to proactively go out and take them out. Permanent solution. Things do not go as planned over the course of the run. They find that mission is a lot easier said than done, and they come to an understanding of who they each are and what they are each willing to do, like how far they're willing to go. It's really good. Sigamig says he wants to read Low and Deadly Class. Well, I recommend both. They're both really strong. Deadly Class is currently filming a pilot TV episode up in Vancouver that's happening like right now. So that's kind of cool. Should read it before everybody knows about it. Make sure that you're like, yeah, I was into Rick Remender before. And I loved Low. That's Yeah. I mean, I'm biased. Rick Remender is one of my absolute favorite writers in comics, and I'm a little biased because I'd consider him a friend. So you can take that with a grain of salt, but I think that part of why I like Rick and consider him a friend is because I really respect his writing abilities and his creativity. I think he's one of the best, like in the field. I think he really is. He's one of the best. I tried something different with this shade there. I don't know if I like it, but I'm trying different things while in Inktober, so I wanted to give something a try. I don't know if I love it. We'll see. Have you considered putting the chat in the actual video so you don't have to say who's saying the comment all the time? Just a suggestion. I've seen other streamers do it. Oh, that is probably something I could do. Let me look into that for maybe tomorrow. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. probably be interesting for the people that like watch this later, because these get archived, and I do know that people are watching them. They say that it's almost like ASMR. They just like can veg out while somebody's drawing, and they don't even feel obligated to like watch it. They just check in every once in a while, and they just every once in a while hear me start to talk and lull them into sleep. But if they wanted to watch the video, I'm sure that it would be helpful to be able to see what people are actually asking. So, good idea. Just didn't occur to me because I've never really streamed before. This is my first time getting into it. But it's been fun. Well, I put CSNG to sleep. Somebody poke him. Somebody poke him really, really hard with something incredibly sharp. Sharp and fast. Hey, CSNG, wake up. Comic Book Guy says, I think I'm the only guy who likes the Generation X TV movie. Yeah, you probably are. I don't think that's very good. Matt Frewer is a little fun in it, but that's about it. Oh, those special effects were dodgy. Wow. It's not the worst TV movie Marvel ever made, but it's up there. I would say when it comes to their worst, you've got Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., with David Hasselhoff running around as Nick Fury, and it's just so campy. I mean, it's funny, but it's pretty cheap. I think that the Power Pack TV pilot is some of the worst stuff that Marvel's ever committed to live action. And while I accepted it at the time because it was like the only superhero stuff we got, the Hulk TV movies, like after the run, well after the run had ended, the TV movies with like Thor and Daredevil and stuff were not that great in retrospect. I mean, Bill Bixby is very likable and interesting as Bruce Banner, but boy, were those cheap. Those were cheap, cheap, cheap. Comic Book Guy says that Jubilee is his comic book crush in Therapon version. They dropped the F bomb. Therapon version? I don't know what that means. I don't get it. Have you heard of this crappy TV show called Mutant X, says Ghost Dog? It's like a bootleg X-Men show from the early 2000s. It was a Marvel show. They were allowed to use the idea of mutants, but none of the actual characters. So it's all sort of like knockoff versions of Wolverine and Professor X and stuff. It's like those kind of ideas, but it was bad. Bad, bad, bad. And if you liked it, you should feel bad for liking it. Just kidding about that part. So I guess for me, this is now the weekend. I guess every day's the weekend now until I get my next job. I'm trying to see the bright side of this, folks. At my age, you need a job. You can't afford to take time off per se, you know? I mean, I don't have kids, so I guess that's good right now because I don't have like anybody else like that that's dependent on me, but It's hard. It's hard. I want to be working. I like being busy. I like feeling useful. Um, Boy, just didn't expect this today. Oh, Europe. Europe. Okay. It was a comic book size in the European version. They dropped the F bomb. Gotcha. Kira says, I remember the Hulk movie with Daredevil. Daredevil costume was black, like season 1 of the Netflix series. Yeah, that was where I think the black costume actually came from. Uh, as in Frank Miller and um, hold on, Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.'s Man Without Fear miniseries that introduced that black costume. I think that they were really basing that off of the TV movie, just sort of saying, hey, you know, he used to have sort of a simpler ninja version of his outfit before he really became the Daredevil we all know today. So yeah, that it was weird though. At the time, you were like, well, they're calling him Daredevil, but he doesn't look like Daredevil. And Jonathan Rhys Davies is a good actor, but he didn't look anything like the Kingpin. It's weird when they do that. Comic Book Guy and Ghost Dog keep chatting with each other. They've become BFFs in the chat room, everybody. So this bromance is one for the ages, I think. Comic Book Guy says, I like Daredevil and all street level characters. They were the voice of the streets, and I think they were badass. We're making Chris jealous, says Ghost Talk. No, no, no. I'm actually glad that there are people in the chat room that have common interests that can talk amongst each other while I'm drawing here. It's nice to see. Sephiroth. No questions, anybody? Nothing to talk about all of a sudden? More's the pity. Have you played Far Cry 3? I don't know. I might have. I'm trying to remember which one was Far Cry 3. I don't know. You'd have to remind me which one that was. Was it the one where you and your young friends are like, you crash on an island or something like that, and your character starts getting like animal-based superpowers as he goes along? Was that number 3? If so, I mean, I played that one. I don't remember if that was 3. Okay, I think I saw another question pop up just as I was turning my head. Let's see. Karen G joins us and she says, question time. Have you been to Mexico? Yes, but not a very exciting story. It was a day trip that I did when I was pretty young with my parents. We were in San Diego, and we drove down across the border for like the day. I don't remember it too well, so technically I have been to Mexico. I had my little kid passport stamped at the time, but yeah, I don't have any good stories about what it's like. I mean, I remember it. It's just I really don't have anything to say about it. I wouldn't mind going to like a Mexico resort or something like that. That could be fun. Why are Final Fantasy characters so feminine? There's nothing wrong with that. I just always wonder. It's sort of a bit of a Japanese thing for some leading characters to just be feminine. It's just sort of a cultural thing. It doesn't really mean anything. Uh, it's just what they sort of consider attractive, and is popular with their comic book readers, their TV watchers, etc. So just sort of a bit of a cultural thing. There's a term for it. What's the term? I even used it in one of my comic tropes videos. Did I review some manga recently? I feel like I did. Oh yeah, Death Note. Death Note. I looked up the term for it, and it's not coming to me now, unfortunately. But there is a term for that sort of pretty boy, feminine look. They call it something, and it's just, sorry, not coming to me. Charles says, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man Homecoming? Great. I loved it. A lot of fun. Keelan Powell says, I love the proportions of these characters in the drawing. That's my big thing when drawing people, is I have a hard time drawing them into cool poses while also making them look anatomically correct. Yeah, it can be a trick. It's trying to like sort of have this leg and the sword in the extreme sort of foreground. And then Sephiroth is a lot more sort of straight on here in the background. You know what? I'm going to switch to a different pen. San Diego, huh? Must have crossed through Tijuana. Yeah, I think I did, Karen. Didn't say that, but yeah, I believe that Tijuana was where we went for the day. Lots of little kids trying to sell me chiclets at the time. I think we just sort of got some lunch, did a little shopping, and said, all right, yeah, we did a day trip to Mexico. We'll have to plan something bigger. We never did. Why the interest in Mexico? Do you live near there? Are you from there? Do you have family there? Just curious. Um, Bishonen. Bishonen is the term for sort of pretty boy stuff. Comic book guy points it out. Yep, that's what it's called. Bishonen is just the sort of term for yeah, sort of like a pretty boy character. Oh, Karen G is from Mexico. Nice. Where in Mexico? It's a large country, so could be almost anywhere. Brian Kelly joins us and says, "You might have already said, but do you have plans on putting these drawings up for auction?" Not exactly. Had a slightly different idea. Uh, I was thinking that if somebody could show me that they donated to a charity that helps an area that's dealing with a disaster, for instance, uh, Mexico, Puerto Rico, California wildfires, something like that. If they could show me a receipt that, like, I'll arrange to send them a page once Inktober's over. So not selling it exactly, just sort of giving it away on behalf of charity. If anybody wants to do that, and might be nobody does. That's fine. Just figured it couldn't hurt. Just trying to help direct much needed funds to some areas that could use the help. Juarez, Chihuahua. It's the border with El Paso. Sure, I know Juarez. Wow, Juarez though. Like, listening. I could be completely wrong about this. My understanding is Juarez, is having a lot of trouble with crime. Maybe the cartels exert a lot of influence. Is that the case, or do you feel like life in Juarez is pretty normal day to day? I'm curious. I would like to learn more. Mundo joins us and he says, "Good evening. Hello." Let's see. Karen G is talking about cultural Japanese stuff and says, uh, Horikoshi Kohei is an American comic book fan. I saw an interview with him. His office is full of action figures. I wish mine was. Comic Book Guy says, "What are the best movie to comic book adaptations?" I like Dune. It explains a lot more than the movie. Well, they had the books to draw from as well. And if I'm not mistaken, did the Dune comics, are you talking about the Marvel series in the 80s that I think had some Bill Sienkiewicz artwork to it? Or are you talking about a different one that I'm not sure of? And Karen says that guy, Hirokoshi Kohei, is the author of My Hero Academia. I saw a massive poster for that, I think. Hold on. When I was in New York Comic Con. Give me a break here while I quickly pull up some of my photos from New York Comic Con, because I felt like I saw just an absolutely huge poster for My Hero Academia, and I was curious what it was. I'm looking through my photos. There's a lot, so I may not be able to find it. We'll see. Take a quick look, though. Hmm. Huh. Not seeing it. I was sure I took a picture of something that said My Hero Academia, and I was just curious what it was. Cloak and Dagger. It's me. Huh. I don't see it. I don't know. Well, maybe I'll find it later. I'm curious about it. Ghost Dog says, "Do you like that recent Marvel character Silk? I thought it was pretty contrived." Yeah, I don't have strong opinions on Silk. I guess I don't know. I like the idea of Spider Woman, so, but I'm not overly familiar with Silk. And there already are a couple Spider Women. I don't know. But you know what? Like the origin isn't always the most interesting part of a superhero. It's more the execution. So if she gets a good writer and artist, then it won't really matter. You know, you can tell good stories if you just need somebody that does like the idea of a character and is inspired. So we'll see. But right now, I can't say that I'm a fan exactly. I don't like read anything with Silk. I'm ambivalent. Oh, Karen says about like Juarez, yes, horrible stuff. It's not as bad as it was back in 2010 to 2013. That was back in the Fast and Furious operation that let in hundreds of guns from the US to cartels. Jesus. That's what I was afraid of. I mean, what? Yeah, there are way too many guns coming out of our country. Well, there's just way too many guns, period, I guess. That sounds scary. Ah, Mark Lawrence says, finally got to join a stream. Hiya, Chris. Hey, Mark. Nice to have you here. Um, they've made a lot of movies and stuff out of. Oh, wait. Maybe you guys are talking about something else. Forget what I was saying. Karen says that right now life has gone back to normal. There is still some crime, but not as it was back then. Yeah, I was going to say, like, I remember a few years ago just hearing that stuff would just happen out in the city streets and the authorities didn't really react. Like people would be killed or there could be gunshots, and you're just like, oh my God, why is no one reacting to this? So I heard about that and was just like that. I don't know how you live your day to day life in that kind of an atmosphere, but who knows? I guess people can get used to anything. Well, I hope you stay safe, Karen. Thanks for joining us and for telling us a little bit about it. I'm trying not to say that like that flavors my whole idea of your hometown. Um, we don't get to hear a lot about that kind of area here. Brian Kelly says Jim Steranko did a very interesting Outland adaptation, worth a look. Oh, really? Outland, the movie? I guess. Yeah. Steranko did that. Never heard about it. Um, Karen says about the earthquake. It was bad, and things have been looking a bit better since lots of people have raised money to help. There was another earthquake back in the 80s, and many people have terrible memories about it. Yeah, yeah, it's part of living on the Pacific Rim. Like, it's something I think about every once in a while. I'm surprised, like there hasn't been a bigger earthquake here in the Pacific Northwest in a while. I feel like we're overly due for either that or one of our volcanoes to erupt. We'll see. Um, Comic book guy says, "Have you ever read Kung Fu comics?" Um, I've read American Kung Fu comics like Iron Fist and Master of Kung Fu, but I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about. I haven't really read any Chinese comics. Wind's picking up outside. I don't know that you guys can necessarily hear it, but yeah, it's getting stormy outside here. Excuse me. Mike L says, my phone is being difficult, so I can't stream. Hopefully I can catch tomorrow. I'm dealing with a cough. Hold on. I'm sorry about your phone, Mike. We love it when you stop in. Mundo asks, is this Cloud Strife? It is. Yes, that's who I'm trying to draw. Mexico is helping Puerto Rico. They send electrical technicians to restore our power grid. Wow. Appreciate that. Karen G says, about My Hero Academia. It's a shonen manga from Jump. The main character starts as someone with no powers in a world where some 80% of the population has powers. My throat got really dry all of a sudden. I feel like I can't can't talk without coughing. Comic book guy says that he was talking about the things that I was talking about, like Iron Fist and Master of Kung Fu, and he says that those comics rock. I agree. Yeah, I loved that stuff growing up. I had this weird idea that like somehow I could be Iron Fist when I grew up. I was like, wow, he's just a white guy that happened to luck into getting these kung fu superpowers. I'm like, maybe that could happen to me. No. This was when I was pretty young. I was a weird kid. And Karen says that she likes My Hero Academia, that it's got an optimistic view of what superheroes are. Yeah, that sounds cool. Charles asks, are you a fan of Star Wars? If so, which ones do you like, dislike? I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. I mean, I just grew up in a time where Star Wars was just about the best sort of science fantasy type of creation in my lifetime. You know, it was fantastic. Which ones do I like? All of them except basically the prequels. And the prequels I thought that I liked when they first came out, and then I started going like thinking about it and going, huh, maybe those have some problems to them, and I sort of stopped caring about them too much. It's not because there are elements within them that are kind of cool and fun, but the overall story and characterizations and pacing and even special effects are not that strong. My favorite Star Wars is probably still Empire Strikes Back. And some of that is just that it hit at the right time to really resonate with me, you know? But I do think it's strong. I think it's really good. I think it's cool. Yeah. I think the new movies are enjoyable. They're not necessarily the most original, but they're well done. Yeah, I like Star Wars a lot, like just for what it can be, I guess. Mundo says, "Who is this girl?" These aren't girls. This is Cloud, and this is Sephiroth, and they come from the video game Final Fantasy VII. Now, they're very pretty, but they are male. But I'm going to take that as a compliment, basically, because these characters are supposed to be good looking. So if you think that they're girls, that's kind of okay. It fits with their characterization. It's funny to me, though. Who are these girls? They're not girls. Karen says, in hindsight, the prequels are not as bad as everyone says. At least they don't have Kylo Ren. Seriously, back at the movie theater, I remember the cringe when he took off his helmet. Put it back on, I thought. No, I think let's be patient there. I think that Kylo Ren is giving us something a little different. I think it's somebody that's fallen to the dark side, but has he can't quite commit to it. He's tempted, but he doesn't really. That's not necessarily who he totally is. I think that we're going to see a story of redemption, and I think that that's interesting. I really do. I think that that's a cool story worth exploring, seeing what Kylo Ren goes through. Um, I'm into it. I think that it's got potential. I really do. I like that Kylo Ren is like trying to be like a badass, scary bad guy, and he can't quite do it. I mean, he's dangerous, but he's not Darth Vader. Even if he sort of wants to be, he's not. Um, so that's what I get out of it. I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. So I have a different point of view there. Okay, people are talking about something I'm not sure. Sigmig says, after killing Han Solo, nah. Look, I don't expect him to be redeemed and become a hero. I do think he can go through an arc of. It's a measure of redemption. Let's put it that way. Like, of turning away from the dark side. I think it's possible. I don't think we've really seen that explored at length. We just saw like Darth Vader's brief moment, the end of Return of the Jedi. Anyway, it's something I'm interested in seeing. I, I think that that's where they're going. We'll see. We'll see. A Dirty Mind comic book name. Giant-sized man-thing. Yeah. Yeah, that was an odd name to give to a comic. Giant-sized man-thing. I think they knew what they were doing. I'm doing too much thick detail with my fine brush. Normally, I'd consider wrapping up the stream because I'd have other things to do. But since I got laid off today, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this. And who cares if I'm up late working on other stuff. I no longer have a schedule. Yeah, if you're just joining, I and about a third of my department got laid off today. No warning, just told that a company wasn't being profitable enough, and we were all getting let go. Everybody told me they were sorry because I did an excellent job, but that doesn't really seem to count for much when you're still getting let go. It's like, well, I guess I didn't do excellent enough, did I? So it's a crappy day for me. Trying to just stick with my schedule, though. Look at this, folks. I mean, can I get a little bit of credit here? Like the fact that I've kept doing this stuff through a trip to New York, having a cold. I've been laid off. I'm sticking with my daily schedule. I'm drawing. Might not all be great, but I'm sticking with it. I feel like I deserve a measure of credit. I don't know who I'm going to get that from. Kiro says he has to say goodbye. Power plant running out of gas. Oh my God. I'm sorry, man. And he says he hopes I find another job soon. Appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. Comic Book Guy asks if I liked Advent Children. Only insofar as it was fun to see these characters that I like again. Was it itself good? Not really. That's about all I can say about it. It took forever to tell, like, not much story. And it didn't have nearly enough action. So, it was fine. It was fine. Not very good, actually. Keelan says, that really sucks, Chris. Hope you find a new job soon. I hope so too, and so does my bank account. Stick with it. Thank you, thank you. Saludos desde Puerto Rico, Karen G. That's from Kiro. Mundo's saying, I like this character Jar Jar Binks, but I think he's kidding. I think he's joking. Mark Lawrence says, I love this drawing. I actually am really liking it for the most part too. I feel like it's good. There's still some areas to work on here, but I haven't really messed anything up too bad. I don't like this technique that I tried out for there, but whatever. Overall, I'm liking how it's coming together. What a day, what a day. But I'm trying to be grateful, you know? I've got electricity. I don't have guns going off in the background. My family is, as far as I know, healthy right now. So uh, there are things that I should be grateful for. We all have our hardships, and we all have stuff that's okay. Some questions. Mundo says, I wonder if I start speaking Portuguese, would I be understood here? I don't know any Portuguese, I don't think. I can, if people talk Spanish very slowly, Más despacio, por favor. I can understand conversational, but again, people have to be speaking baby talk slow to me. Portuguese? Nope, I'm out. Don't know Portuguese, sorry. Wish I knew more foreign languages. I've said before, people say, like, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? Cypher from New Mutants? The ability to speak any language, from computer programming to a foreign language to an alien language. He can learn any language immediately. Yeah, that sounds very appealing to me. I love the idea of being able to just sort of go anywhere in the world you felt like and being able to communicate. That just sounds so fantastic. Oh, what a gift that would be. I hope things turn around and that I'm able to do more traveling in my life. I want to see more of the world. I want to see more cultures. I love traveling. I love learning the history of our planet, or at least our civilization. So that's what I hope for myself, that I can just find a job that I enjoy, work with people that I get along with, and have the ability to do some traveling. That would make me happy. We'll see. We'll see. When... Okay. First of all, it looks like Ghost Dog gave me some credit with an emoji. Thanks. Anyone watch that Netflix Death Note movie? Such a waste of money. I watched it, Karen, and I was pretty disappointed with it. I think it really missed the boat. Wow, just not what I wanted out of a Death Note movie. I have a lot of respect for that story idea when it's been executed well. I really like the live action movies that came from Japan. That just really resonated with me, and I did not care for the American take on it. I was so excited too when it was announced. I was like, Adam Wingard. All right, well, he made a great horror movie called You're Next. Like, that could be a good fit. Oh, they're setting it in the Pacific Northwest here, like here in Seattle. That could be cool. That's an interesting angle. And then they just didn't do anything interesting with it at all. They broke their own rules left and right. It was a mess. Only worth seeing if you really like Death Note, just for comparison's sake. Yeah, it wasn't good. Sigmig says, I heard it was quite different from the manga. Yeah, it was. It's not good. Michael Wisman just joined. What's the theme tonight? The theme is Cloud. So I'm drawing the character Cloud from the video game Final Fantasy VII and his enemy Sephiroth over here. So that's what I'm trying to do, is something interesting with the two of them. Karen's talking about the Death Note American movie. She's like, it was very antsy. I think she means angsty and teenage. Lots of American high school drama, cheerleaders, and all that. It was bad. CSNG said, I saw that scene where Light screams and runs from Ryuk, and that's all I feel I need to see. Yeah, yeah. It took away what makes Death Note interesting and amped up the gore and senseless killing. It did, because it didn't really follow the rules. Anyone excited for American Akira adaptation? Probably not. Uh, Mundo says, will there be an adaptation? Who knows? They've been talking about that for forever. For like, I remember them talking about that before there was an internet. Like the studios here want to try to crack that nut and adapt that story. They never have. I don't know if they ever will. The most exciting thing I heard about it recently was that Taika Waititi was uh, approached about directing it. Now, he's the guy that's directed this current Thor movie, Ragnarok, and he's directed some really good independent movies like Eagle versus Shark, Hunt for the Wilder People. Um, really good character-based stuff that doesn't necessarily rely on big stars. I think he's got a really good sense of humor and a lot of respect for original material. And he said that if he was going to do it, he'd want to go with sort of unknown Japanese teenagers. Good. Yeah. If you're going to do it, that's probably the way to do it. Like without really big name stars, keep it Japanese. Like let's just do let's this is one that should hew very closely to the source material. Um, Maybe take out some subplots, of course, because it's a huge story. But if you're going to do it, I'd suggest that this is one where you really want to stay close to the source material because it's already a complex story. And I don't think you're going to benefit it by sort of dumbing it down and just sort of taking a couple big action scene ideas out of it. That they're not going to carry any emotional weight or resonance unless you have the actual sort of story behind it to back that all up. But then again, I'm not a movie producer, so what do I know? Maybe it should star Scarlett Johansson as Akira. Oh, well, Akira's not the name of the main character. No, it'll star Scarlett Johansson as Akira. Oh, 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 oh. Okay. Thanks, Hollywood. We'll take whatever you give. Cool. Sounds great. Sigamig says it's going to be by Jordan Peele, apparently. Never mind, just looked it up and he declined. Yeah, he did. Um, Kieran says that's the best mindset to have when going to watch a movie. Have no expectations. If it's good, you have a pleasant surprise. If it's bad, you'll feel less disappointment. Yes. Mundo drops some Portuguese on us. I don't know what he's saying. It's probably incredibly offensive knowing this Mundo guy. Let's just say it's good that I don't have the chat windows scrolling over there because who knows what he's saying. All right, Sly Fly Guy says, hey. Hey! Nice to have you here. Hey! I'll tell you something. There's nothing easier to ink than black leather. It's easy to make leather look pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. What else are people saying? Sorry, the sound was off. What did you say about Portuguese skunk? I didn't say anything. I was saying I don't know what you typed, so I'm just going to assume it's incredibly offensive. CSNG is talking about the Akira movie, and he says, if it happens, it needs Tetsuo and Kaneda yelling each other's names. I'll take 2 hours of that. Just two characters yelling each other's names back and forth. That would probably be better than whatever Hollywood is currently making. That should probably work. Ghost Dog says, if it's bad, I'm still disappointed because I wasted $15. I could have had ice cream instead. I want some of that ice cream. Give me that yummy ice cream. No ice cream for you. You must come with me if you are to drink wine and have ice cream, Luke. Luke, go into that cantina and buy me some ice cream. But Ben, shouldn't we? Luke, you must buy me some ice cream. Alright, but I was gonna go into Toshi's station and pick up some power converters. Luke, get me that ice cream. And if you see a Chewbacca, hire him. Alright. Alright, Ben. I wonder if he's talking about old Ben, that old hermit that hangs out outside of town and people say stay away from him. I wonder. Sephiroth. Sephiroth. Oh man, the music in Final Fantasy VII is so good. So good. Hey Chris, have you seen the anime movie Paprika? That's from Sigamegs. No, I guess I didn't. I know what you're talking about. I've seen the cover, and so I was like, did I see that? I guess I actually haven't seen it. I'd be curious to see it. What's the most unique comic book you've ever read? Oh, that's from Geek Workshop. What's the most unique? Most unique. I guess the most unique would be something I picked up at like the Small Press Expo. Uh, there were some interesting comics there that are self-published. And there was one, about like, the size of like this, and then it like folded way out, just kept expanding like an accordion, and you just read it left to right, and then like, oh no, it was more than just folding out like an accordion. Now I remember it like would flip down, sort of like it was all sort of pasted together so that you opened it almost like a map, but it wasn't a full map. It was just like you'd go down 4 panels, and then you'd start folding it out, and you'd go over 5 panels, and then you'd go back up 3, and you'd expand it all. It was huge. That was the most unique. Attitude Era Gaming says, are you friends with any comic book artist? Yeah, a few. A few. Comic book industry is relatively small. If you hang out even trying to like sort of make it, you're probably going to cross paths with a few people that do make it eventually, and because it's such a small industry, you'll get introduced to others. So yeah, got some very cool, talented friends that are professionals. I don't know how many off the top of my head. A good handful. I'm getting close to maybe finishing this. Maybe I'll keep going and try to finish it today. Might as well. Let's see. Mundo says, gotta go. It is a very common Brazilian way to say goodbye with kisses. Ah, see you, Mundo. Thanks for stopping by. Karen says, Mexican comic book trivia. There's a comic book called El Libro Vaquero, the cowboy book, that is still being published and sold at every convenience store. It's a comic book for gentlemen. Sounds interesting. El Libro Vaquero. Is it good? Or is it just something that's just like, who reads it? Like, you say that it's for gentlemen. Does that mean like businessmen, or do you mean gentlemen like it's sexy or something like that? Like it's something that just like we'd say a gentleman's club, but really that means strip club. Curious what you mean by that. Chrissy says a few. Most of your friends are comic artists. That's a good point. Yeah, she's right. If I took all my friends, yeah, most of them are professional comic book artists. Not all. Good. I hadn't thought of it like that, Chrissy. And I was trying to be modest. He just asked if I was friends with a comic book artist. Like, yeah. To answer your question, yeah, I am. What do you guys think Star Wars The Last Jedi will be? Good, bad, no spoilers. If there were any in the trailers, I haven't watched them. From what little I have seen, I'm just kind of mixed. Hopefully it'll be okay. I didn't watch the last trailer, Keelan. I'm actually trying to stay a little bit blind. I want to go into it blind. Here's what I'm excited about. Rian Johnson, the director, I've really enjoyed his movies. I liked Looper, and I really, really liked Brick. That was a great take on a detective story. I really like those movies. I think he's a really good director just across the board in so many ways. And so I'm very encouraged that somebody with his talent and his vision, and apparently he's really easy to collaborate with. I don't know. There's a lot to recommend him, and I think that like that's why I'm kind of hopeful for this movie. Ah, Karen G says that the comic book she's talking about is sexy. It's got the fame that low wage working men, but it what? Oh, there's a bunch of typos. She said. Okay. Chrissy says, and the rest of my friends are unprofessional comic book artists. Yeah. Uh, Attitude Era Gaming says 89 Batman, 2008 Batman, 2016 Batman. Okay. I don't get it, but okay. Sigmig says, I'm worried it'll be too much like The Empire Strikes Back. That's fair. I agree with you, like because, while Force Awakens was a fun movie, it was also really close to what we've seen before. It wasn't the most original. It was good. It was fun, but the plot overall was stuff we've seen in Star Wars before. So I have that same concern, but I'm going to try to be hopeful because again, like I really like a lot of what Rian Johnson has done, and I really think that that's the best thing you can do with a movie. It is get a quality director in the chair. Like, it doesn't guarantee a good movie. I'm not saying that like there's a director that's been perfect, but it increases your chances at an overall good movie. Well, maybe there's been some perfect directors. I like Stanley Kubrick a lot, and I don't know if Hitchcock made a bad movie. Can't think of one off the top of my head. So there are some directors that basically don't make mistakes. I mean, you don't necessarily love every single thing they've created, but there's a high level of quality involved there. Ghost Dog says, I don't think they'd have the guts to repeat an original trilogy movie twice. I think that that's something they'd probably be aware of too. I do. The trailer had basically the blah 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 and blah 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 scene. I won't say in case it's a spoiler. Oh, Attitude Era Gaming is saying, out of those three Batman movies, who is my favorite? Out of the '89 Batman, the 2008 Batman, and the 2016 Batman. I guess the 1966 Batman is off the table. We're not counting Adam West because he did have a theatrical release. But okay. Of those, I'll go with the 2008 Batman. Yeah, Christian Bale, the Christopher Nolan movies. I like them very much. I think that that's my personal favorite interpretation of Batman in live action so far. Karen says, it's not that it's a graphic book. It's kind of like the equivalent of what a romance novel would be for a stereotypical stay-at-home mother, but for men, in comic book format. Cheap print. No wonder it's still around. Geez, if they translated that into English, I would love to review something like that on Comic Tropes. That sounds really interesting. That sounds, I would love to share something like that with a broader audience, but I wouldn't really be able to personally understand it unless it was translated. Uh, that sounds very interesting, Karen. Excuse me. What was the last good movie J.J. Abrams did? Haven't heard from him in a while. Well, it was Star Wars. He did good on Star Wars. These things take a while to make, so I don't know if he did something after that. I don't know what he's working on currently. But JJ definitely has skill. He can elicit good performances out of his cast, and he can uh, make things look nice and clear. We understand what's going on. I don't know that he's come out with anything groundbreaking, but he's better than like just a journeyman director. You know, he's got talent. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear that I've given such a warm endorsement. I'm sure it means a lot to him knowing that that guy that does a few YouTube videos that no one's seen likes his work. Probably carries a lot of weight. Oh, he's alright. Wow, did you hear? The comic tropes guy thinks I'm alright. Wow, my career is really taking off. I'm J.J. Abrams. For inking, can you use a basic Sharpie or do you have to have a special one? I would not ink with a Sharpie. That is a pretty blunt. This is a fine point, and that is pretty fat. Like, that is what that looks like. That is stubby. And the black that it lays down is nowhere near as dark as what you get with India ink if you're using a brush or a quill, or the black that I get out of using a brush pen. I mean, hopefully you can, like, even though this isn't a close-up, hopefully you can sort of see the difference between, a brush pen and a Sharpie for the detail that you'd need to get for, like, feathering lines or drawing fine details like facial features or hair, things like that. It's got, like, a hair on it that I'm pulling out. So, personally, no, I would not ink anything with a Sharpie. I've used this a little bit to just dump in lots of thick black areas, but that's because I'm just drawing a sketch. Like if I was drawing an actual comic book page, I would never involve a Sharpie. That's just me. Uh, I'd be terrified of what I would do with such a blunt instrument. What do you think of novelizations of comic books? For example, recently I bought a hardcover Craven's Last Hunt thinking it was the actual graphic novel, only to find out it was an actual book. Wow! Geek Workshop, I have never heard of that. That is news to me. Huh. I don't know about that. That's... wow. Feels like they tricked us when they do that. James Berry Jr. joins us and says, do you still get Comic Book of the Month Club? I got my second one today, and they knocked it out of the park. Great subscription. What do you think? Do you work for them? That sounds like quite an endorsement. I don't think I do anything called Comic Book of the Month Club, so that feels very salesy to me. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you think of Diego Luna? I cannot stand the guy. Lately, he's everywhere as a token Latino character. He's the Latino guy from Rogue One. No, I know he's that guy. What was he just in though? He was in something that was in a recent movie that I saw, and I thought he was a lot better in that than he was as Cassian Andor. I don't find him annoying. Uh, what was he in? Just a Person says, so this is Jesus, huh? I don't know. What was Diego Luna in that I just saw him in? God damn it. Now I gotta know. Diego. By the way, I think Diego Luna is a better Star Wars name than Cassian Andor. He should have just been called Diego Luna. Get the battle plans to Diego Luna. People are talking about brushes. Keelan says, I use Sharpie, but I'm kind of limited ink-wise. I normally use pencils. Karen G says, I prefer the Sakura Micron and Statler pigment liners to ink. Yeah, I like those too. Ghost Dog says that he likes Diego Luna and he seems like a humble guy. Just a Person says he's talking about me. I'm not Jesus. What the? I'm not Jesus. What did he just do, Diego Luna? I'm going to look at his filmography real fast and see what I saw him in. He was in Flatliners? No, that's not what I saw him in. Was he on TV? Geez, I saw a movie with him, but I don't remember what it was. Well, I'll look it up some other time. Sorry. Flatliners. I didn't see Flatliners. I saw the original Flatliners. That blew my mind. I was like, what? They're remaking Flatliners? That was never like an exceptional movie to begin with. That was just sort of okay, Flatliners, sure. There's so many movies out there that I would have thought people would be interested in remaking before they got to Flatliners. Yeah, that one cracks me up that they remade Flatliners. My brush is running a tiny bit low on ink already. Wow. The one thing you realize when you start using brush pens a lot is they don't last that long. I'm definitely starting to understand why so many professional comic artists use brushes. It's because just force yourself to get used to them because they will last a lot longer. I got to start using a brush, not a brush pen. Uh, James Berry said, I thought you did a video on them. Sorry, I do not work for them. Oh, I wasn't attacking you. I did do like reviews of like 3 different what do you call those, blind box comic book subscriptions. I just don't remember the name of the one you were just saying. I'm trying to remember the names of the ones that I did. There was one. Nah, I can't remember the names of any of them. None of them really wowed me. So anyway. Oh, whoops. Yeah. Never finished inking up here. I was just playing, man. I wasn't like mad or anything like that. I was just kidding around. I appreciate you joining the stream. It's really nice. You know what disappoints me about like getting laid off today is I was literally just about to buy myself that $800 Lego Millennium Falcon. And I mean, I guess I'm glad I didn't right now, but I really wanted that thing, and it upsets me that I got laid off so that I can't really justify any sort of big purchases like that right now. I really wanted to build that thing. Guess it's good that I didn't get it yet. I feel like I'm getting close to sort of a natural end point to this this drawing. Pretty close to completing it. And overall, I think I'm fairly happy with how this one's coming out. Yeah. Questions. Keelan says, did you ever play Spider-Man for PS1 or Spider-Man 2 for PS2? Those were my fave growing up. I don't remember. I played one of them. Bruce Campbell talked you through like the training and stuff, and would tell you you're an idiot if you messed up, and then it was an open world to explore. Was that one of those? You'll have to remind me. That one was kind of fun back in the day. I remember that one. Not well enough to remember what it was called. The stream has been going on for 2 hours. Haha. Yeah. You know, why not? Karen says, guys, let me tell you a secret. Use it as an anecdote to prove a point. Just don't say it was me. I am a huge fan fiction reader. Star Wars, Phantom of the Opera, anime, manga, Korean, comic books, TV series, movies, books. I got started with Harry Potter. It's a downward spiral to hell that starts with Harry Potter, I swear. I that's interesting. Uh, I I used to do a podcast about TV and stuff, like sci-fi type TV shows. It was a weekly podcast. I did that for like 7 years. But the reason I'm mentioning it is I would do segments, like I would like play trivia games or I would have comedy bits. And one of the ones I came up with was slash fic theater, and I would find slash fic stories based on the shows that we would talk about, and like find a scene and have us act it out, and that seemed to amuse the audience. Uh, that was fun. Slash fic theater. Remember we did one about Teen Wolf that ended up like with Styles singing and some older werewolf falling in love with him. That one was funny. One where Captain Picard and Qui-Gon Jinn fell in love on a deserted planet. Pretty sexy. Oh man, I would love to listen to those again, but I don't really remember what episodes they were. Keelan says, I gotta log off. Looks great. Thanks for answering my questions. See you next time. Bye. Thanks for stopping by, Keelan. I really appreciate it. Geek Workshop says, can you bring back slash fic theater? It's just me. I don't have anybody else to do it with. If I was reviewing comics with a team, maybe I would, because I'm sure that there's, now that I think of it, there probably is a bunch of comic book related slash fic, right? Ugh. You know what? But not a hole I'm going to go down right now because it's just me, so I can't think of a reason to do it. I don't think I could do it well, just myself. Appreciate being able to talk with you guys today. It's a pretty bad day, but it's fun to get lost in a drawing and just talk about comics and sci-fi and stuff like that. So appreciate it. Wow, this pen is really losing its abilities. What else? Holy moly, I may have really yeah. Guess I'm mostly done. I'm going to erase some pencil stuff. I've really enjoyed your inking videos. I logged on last night as you were saying bye. Oh, cool. Well, appreciate you swinging by, James. That's nice. Um, they have a small studio system on a lot of popular manga titles in Japan. Um, they'll have assistants that can do things like backgrounds or details along those lines, and the main artist will get to focus just on the characters and the faces and stuff. But one thing I especially find interesting is when it's working in that studio system, sometimes they'll have somebody whose job it is to like erase stuff, erase the line art, so that you've got a nice clean inked page. I mean, it'll probably be the same guy that handles like a bunch of the inking or the zipatones, things like that. But yeah, I just find that interesting because we don't really do that here. Ghost Dog says, I'm going to get some sleep now. These are always fun to interact with you people who share an interest in nerd stuff. See you tomorrow, maybe. Thanks for stopping by, Ghost Dog. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the comments to me and to the other folks here. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, I know this is kind of late for a lot of people. So it's really nice when people make the time to stop by. Keeps it from being boring. Yeah, the hair's starting to look a lot better when I get rid of some of those extra lines. To me, anyway. Yeah, overall, I think I'm fairly happy with this one. This is one of the better results. Not perfect, but about as good as I can do. I'm not a professional and got to understand my limitations, but it's about as good as I can do. Hopefully, by the end of the month, I can do even a little bit better. I think that's about it. Let's see. How do you make sure the eraser doesn't smudge the ink, says CSNG. The trick there is waiting until it's dry. If it's even a little wet, you're going to smudge. But if you just wait until it's dry, you usually don't have too much of a problem. You can also have an ink guard. It's like a little metal credit card sized thing that has various sort of like slots, lines, and holes. And you can sort of put it over the area you want to focus on erasing. It's very, very thin. So you just like rub and it covers up like any areas that you think could smudge. So yeah, you can buy something called an ink guard at most art supply stores. The kind of pens he's using dry really fast. They are the good stuff to get to ink. Yeah, this stuff dries pretty fast. Let's see. James says, can't wait until you get back to doing your Tropes videos. They are the best. Dude, I do them every single week. Every Sunday I've been releasing one. I've never taken a break. So you say get back to it, and I just want to be clear. I have never taken a break yet for over a year. And there'll be one this weekend too. So I'm doing this on top of my weekly videos. I'm doing a horror month, so I've done Sergeant Spook. I've done Friday the 13th. I've done Hellboy. I've got another one coming this week, like a fourth one. I've got all sorts of Tropes videos coming out. So trust me, like that is the main. That is my bread and butter when it comes to the YouTube stuff that I'm creating. There will be plenty more in the future. Karen says, it would be a problem if he was using India ink with a brush or with a fountain pen. Karen, you really know your stuff when it comes to inking. Thank you very much for joining in and explaining some of that. I appreciate that. Sounds like you know your stuff pretty well, and I know you mentioned that you use some of those tools. So, you know, if you ever want to share a link with the group, I'm sure that there's a bunch of people here that would be curious what you've created. Charles says, do you recommend what kind of inking materials I should get since I have none? If you have none, I would recommend starting with technical pens and maybe a brush pen. You can get Statler, you can get Pigma Micron. These are in like not just art stores, but in kind of any type of uh, general store. You can find these types of pens almost anywhere. Now, if you're going to fill in a large black area like that, I would not use that. That will kill this pretty fast. But get like a number 1, maybe a number 2 for sort of like the thicker outlines and the stuff that's in the foreground. And then, a 005 for the fine details on stuff like eyes, maybe hair, etc. So get that to start with. I think that that's a pretty good way to start to get used to how ink goes on paper and how it reacts. You want to make sure that it isn't something that's going to sort of smear or smudge. And then you might want to get sort of like a brush so that you can, I'm just going to flip to like the back of this to show something, just so that you can get a sense of like going from thick to thin, and it might not be the easiest to see now that I look at this. I don't really have, I'll just flip to the back page of this. So yeah, start with some technical pens and then just practice your control with something like a brush pen. Or there are also quills that you can dip in ink and they will last a longer time. This is a thicker brush, so it produces a thicker line. Practice with that. An actual brush with India ink is going to give you the overall best result, but you have to like get used to your control. And that's why I was recommending maybe starting with technical pens, just so that you can understand what ink does on paper and you can have a little more control to start with, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend staying with them long term. Sigamig says, I forgot to mention it, but I love the action perspective. Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, hopefully that works for everybody. I'm happy with it. It works for me. Yeah. I think the only thing is if this sword is right here in the foreground, it should have a much thicker sort of outline to it. But, yeah. Whoops, that's not very straight. There we go, that's a little better. Oh well. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on inking, and I'm far from the best at inking. Obviously, I'm using this as an exercise to get better, but that's what I'd recommend for starting out. Hopefully that helps. All right, folks, I am going to take off. Let's see. Karen shares some of her artwork. She is, I don't know if this is 2 L's or an I and an L. Let me copy this. It would be an honor if you guys would take a look at my art. So you guys in the chat can see Karen G's name. I'm going to open a tab real quick and Deviant Art. Beware of the obsessive person. It's an I. I-L-E-R-A-N-E-R-A-K. Ileraneric. I-L-E-R-A-N-E-R-A-K at deviantart.com. And she's got all sorts of stuff here. Oh, there's some Rick and Morty stuff. There's some pretty girls. All sorts of fun stuff. There's a little bit of, what would I call it, like manga-esque stuff in here. Very cool. So take a look. Anybody want to share their link that's in the chat? That's fair. I have no problem with that. Bye, Charles. Geek Workshop says, any suggestions on how to draw straight without a ruler? You could just use a hard edge from, piece of paper or cardboard, or you can get used to, just drawing, just practice trying to move your whole arm instead of your wrist. If you can start drawing with your whole arm, you're going to have a lot better control, and if you can do that, then yeah, you're in much better shape. There. All right. Enough futzing about. I'm done. Attitude Era Gaming says, I got suspended from school because I made Stickman Feminist comic. I don't know what that means, but I'm sorry you got suspended. Yeah. Sorry you got suspended for drawing. That stinks. All right, folks. Yeah, I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to go get some dinner. I'm going to keep planning my next Comic Tropes video. Good talking to everybody. Take care. Bye.